Hello, welcome to Ms. D's Pantry. Okay, listen, you may not have seen a video from me in quite a while. However, you may have seen some shorts. I've been posting those shorts and posting on Instagram and the TikTok. So follow me all over there. So a while back, I did my first video about some kitchen stories. I told y'all in that video that I would do story times about experiences in different restaurants or in the kitchen, things I've seen or that happened to me. So it's been a little minute, but I was talking to someone today and it reminded me of this story, and I wanted to tell it, especially because now people are getting very boisterous in their fields in general, and how they're not, taking any mess from their management and stuff. So, this was way before then, because mind you, I've been in the industry for over 10 years. I don't even know at this point. Okay. So this was many years ago. And, so there's going to be a couple of, people in this story. However, to be honest with you, I don't even remember their real names. So we're just going to give them names. I don't even remember their real names anyway. But I will not mention the restaurant that I worked in. Okay. So I worked in this restaurant. It was, it was a lot of seafood there, I'll say. They had other things too. So I was a prep cook. I'm sorry, I'm trying to not say the official title I was, because it might give away what the restaurant is. So I was a prep cook, and there were different prep teams. We were kind of split into separate teams. And when I did orientation here, so the restaurant opened later on in the day, but the prep team came in the morning to prepare the food that was going to be cooked later. So it was a big production. I wish I could actually mention the restaurant, because there were a lot of good qualities about it. But again, so it was myself and a lot of people on this prep team. So there are 3 managers that are going to be involved. Okay. So, we're going to start with who, like the hierarchy. So who's in charge and who's under them. So we'll start with Bob, who is in charge of the whole operation. And then John. And then right under him, so his number 2 was Joe. Okay, so Bob, and then John, and then Joe. Okay, so when we had an orientation, they told us, that you can eat, because we had to take a break. So you could eat, but you couldn't eat anything expensive, which is understandable. So like chicken tenders or fries, something like that. So, we would get there and it would be time to eat, but John, so he would be the second guy. John would never let us actually eat, but he made us take the little break or whatever it was. So it was a guy on the prep team that John, I guess they became friends or he liked him or whatever. And they, he was like his favorite. You know how bosses have favorites. So he would cook him and Joe food. Now, Bob really isn't in the story like that. He would come in later on in the day, go to the office and do paperwork. So John would cook for one of my coworkers and Joe. And so they would eat like some good stuff. He'd make up tacos or chicken tenders or whatever. Or he could have, like a steak and whatever, and they would share with him. Or he'd make a pasta, whatever. So we would all just kind of sit there and watch. And we would literally be hungry. So we would ask, could we get something? And, John would say, well, no. So it started to become frustrating. So I started bringing in food from home because I was thinking, okay, well, maybe they just don't want us to eat from here. Maybe the budget isn't like that. I don't know. But people were like, it's not fair. I said, doesn't look fair, but I don't care. I'm just going to bring food from home. So I would bring, like a little lunch bag. And the first time I brought it, John comes up behind, like, over my shoulder, and he's looking in my bag, and he's like, you're not about to eat that right now, are you? I'm like, no, I just got here. I was just, unpacking all of my stuff. We should about unpack our knives, pens, get yourself ready for work. I said, so I was just unpacking my belongings. He said, well, yeah, you're not going to eat that right now. I said, no, I'm going to put it up and everything. He's like, yeah, you need to put that up. Okay. So I go on, do my work and everything. So it comes time for, us to take the break. So everybody else is just kind of standing around looking. And he's feeding Joe and the guy again. So I go over to the side and start eating my own little food, okay? So then another day goes by, and he's over my shoulder again, making little snarky remarks about what I'm bringing or what I have. And I'm like, is there a problem? He's like, well, you can't have outside food in the kitchen, something. I said, well, I'm just putting it up here and then I'm going to eat it later. So finally, this kept going on to the point where I started to feel uncomfortable to bring food in. So then I stopped. And then, I would bring drinks in, like a bottle of water or something. And then he would complain about that. So then I stopped. And I noticed that he was still feeding himself and Joe and the other guy. So I kind of got frustrated. And I decided that I was going to be the voice for the people. This had to be the worst idea I've ever had. So Bob actually comes in this day, and we're hungry and we're sick of this. So we're all standing kind of around, and this is before they made the food. So Bob walks past. He's like, good morning, everybody. He did this every morning. So I said, hey, Bob, can I just ask you a question? And I do this in front of everybody because I didn't want anybody to think something. So he goes, sure, what's the question? I said, are we allowed to eat here? He was like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I know when we had the orientation, it said that we could eat here, just not, anything expensive. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. If you want to put some chicken tenders in the fryer, or you want to eat, some pasta or whatever, make a taco, that's fine. Just don't eat the steak or the seafood. I said, understandable. He said, yeah, of course, you guys should eat when you take your break or whatever. I said, is it okay if we bring outside food or drinks here? As long as we're not eating them, can we just put them to the side and then get it later? And he said, absolutely, you guys need to feel comfortable eating here. And he's kind of giving me this look because he doesn't understand where this is coming from. So behind him, is John and Joe, and they're just kind of looking, but John is giving me this really dirty look. So I kind of felt proud. Okay, so immediately it was close to the time to break. He's like, actually, go ahead and drop some chicken tenders down for everybody. So I went over and I cooked, the chicken tenders for everybody. This was the first time we all really got to eat. So I felt satisfied, but I kept getting this dirty look from John. And, after about a week, things started to get bad. So, I started getting cussed out by John all the time, yelled at. He would start nitpicking at me. Like, one of the rules we had was we had to wear black socks. It was a part of our uniform. And when we were there, we had a lot of prep work to do, and we had to get it done by the time we got off. So when the delivery for the food and the fish, the management would take care of, but the food, we all had to stop everything that we were doing and put everything away. And so I had bent down to put something away, and I had on black socks, but they had like a some kind of design in it. I don't remember if it was white or purple, something. So he comes over to me again, like this close behind me, and he says, "Your socks aren't black." I said, "What?" And the way that I was bent down, why are you staring at me? He was like, "You're not wearing black socks, and you're supposed to be wearing black socks." I said, "My socks are black." "No, they're supposed to be plain black socks." We had to wear plain black socks and black shirts like this, plain, under our chef jackets. So, then he started doing this thing where he would make me pull up my pants leg to show him my socks. And then it just became worse. He would start nitpicking at me. He would poke at me if I wasn't done when he thought I should have been done. He started attacking, the way that I was doing the work or anything like that. It just got so bad. So John was in charge of his own location because this was a chain. And he was there to train us, but he was still in management, so he could still write us up, whatever. So at the time, Joe was nice, but he was being trained by John. So he was really quiet, didn't say much, but he seemed cool. So eventually, I dealt with John and all of his antics. It was really tough. I questioned whether or not that job was good for me. And finally, it was time for John to go. So I thought everything was going to get better. So we ended up getting a new assistant manager in, and I'll just call her Teresa because I don't remember her name either. So she was assistant to Joe. So now John's gone. Bob was in charge of the whole thing, so he was always going to be there. And then it was Joe and Teresa. So I thought things were going to get better because they were there. I started to, not feel like I had that chip on my shoulder, so tense. I mean, my mental health was just so terrible working there. So I had put in my availability that I couldn't work on Sundays, and I had a second job. Well, I had two jobs, so this one and another one, and Sunday was the only day that I had off. I wanted to just have a day where I was off from both jobs so I could get rest because I was working so hard. I was exhausted. And I had signed up to get my bachelor's degree, so it was a lot going on. So it was Mother's Day, and they had put me, on the schedule. And I said to Joe and Teresa, "Hey, I'm sorry I can't, do this. My availability, I wrote this down when I first got hired, and they're like, no, you have to work on this day. And I said, no, this is not okay. I'm not available, this and that. So in the middle of the entire, because at this point, when the prep morning people leave and the evening people come, so now it's in the middle of them coming in and the servers coming in and the dishwashers, everybody's coming in, and they both just started screaming at me in front of everyone. How dare you, everybody, da 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 da, just screaming at me. And I felt so just, ugh. So I said, listen, okay, because it was a lot of pressure. So I said, look, I'll come in, but please don't do this anymore. Sunday is the only day I have. So they're just like, we're going to schedule you anytime. We need to schedule you. This is your job. You this and this and this and this. And I thought, my days were over being mistreated. But Joe was okay until Teresa got there. Then he became... He just kind of seemed like he was a little bit of a follower. I don't know. So after she got there, she was just not a nice person. So they picked with me for the entire week up until Sunday. So I'm working, and then I notice, not only is this a day that I normally have off, but everybody who's normally scheduled to work, they were sending them home one by one till I was there by myself. And they also wanted me to work longer than my normal hours were. So I said to them, well, hey, how long do I have to be here? It's time for me to go, and you're still asking me to do things. And, then again, they start yelling at me again and talking to me all disrespectful. So when they walked away, I took my apron off, put it on the table, clocked out, and left. I just walked out. This is the first time I ever walked off of a job before, but I had been under so much, it was just too much going on there, and nobody was treating me right. I just felt like they didn't care about me or anything. And I just said, this is not the place that I need to be. So funny enough, the next day I was scheduled to work, and they kept calling me and calling me. I never answered. So I got a couple messages from them. I just kind of blocked them, and that was it. And then after that, I ended up finding, another job. So that was pretty much it. So what I will say is, you got to stand up for yourself, even if it makes you uncomfortable, and know your worth. You also need to know your policies and procedures at your job, and you need to know your labor laws and your rights as an employee. As long as you know them, nobody can ever mess with you. I'll tell you, from that day on, I always read anything I signed. So I get a policies and procedure handbook or employee handbook you have to sign. So I always read it. But I kept it with me, memorized it from cover to cover, my labor laws and everything. And I'm telling you this because there'll be more stories where I had to fight using my employee handbook, my policies and procedures, and the labor laws in my state in order to fight people from doing things to me that are considered illegal in the workplace. So, yeah, that was my story. Leave me any comments, or you have any questions or anything like that. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see y'all in the next video.